Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Stefan, I think I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Stefan sent me stories. Said, Steve, did you see this? From the newstribune.com about the architect plans, the drawings for a house. And a guy who lives in a house wants to see the plans by which his house was built. And it turns out that the people who drew those plans are suing to keep him from seeing them. Which sounds unusual, but it's a copyright issue. We'll get into this. Pierce County man wants blueprints to his own home. The builder has sued to stop him. Josephine Peterson wrote the story for the News Tribune, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, but Tehela, homeowner, needed blueprints for his house for a remodel, but the company who built the home went to court to stop him from seeing them. Oak Ridge Homes filed an injunction with Pierce County Superior Court in December to prevent Michael Brando from obtaining his house plans from county files. Now, a judge has granted a preliminary injunction on this, and a review hearing is scheduled for April. Now, the judge will determine then if the injunction becomes permanent. Developers and the county say it's rare that such an action is taken to block the release of blueprints held by the county. So a home gets built, and the blueprints for the home get filed with the county. And the county, of course, is involved in inspections and so on like that. And then they hang on to the blueprints. So a guy who lives in the house goes, I'd like to see a copy of those blueprints. And the developer says, no, you can't. You can't. They're copyrighted. They're proprietary information. You cannot see them. And some of you are going to wonder about, well, isn't it true that most things filed with the government are public records? Yeah, that's true too. So we'll look at this. Oak Ridge Homes, which has been building homes in Pierce County for more than 35 years, said the plans include trade secrets. Non-disclosure of the blueprints and building plans is essential to protect the trade secrets contained therein and protect Oak Ridge from economic harm resulting from the public disclosure of these trade secrets. Now, one answer to this might be don't put trade secrets in your blueprints, but the injunction was filed against Pierce County, which pulls in the prosecuting attorney's office then to argue for the release of the records. County attorneys said in their response that Oak Ridge has not demonstrated a likelihood that any portion of the requested records qualify as trade secrets. The records at issue are copies of building plans previously evaluated and approved by Pierce County that were submitted to the county for purposes of issuing residential building permits in compliance with Pierce County's building code. That would be the answer to the complaint in this matter. Brando, the homeowner, feels frustrated and upset. He bought the home in July of 2021 with the intention to do heavy remodeling. He wants to knock down some walls, push out one room, do things like that. And he called Oak Ridge for the plans, but they denied giving him the plans. They were not going to give him the plans. They're from Gig Harbor, by the way. Oak Ridge Vice President Jeff Servin told the News Tribune the company offered to tell Brando which walls are crucial in lieu of handing out the blueprints. So they'll tell him which walls are important. That's a load-bearing wall. That one's not. That one? Yeah, that one's important. He said that homeowners are usually content with that. He says, we've never experienced this issue. The Master Builders Association of Pierce County told the newspaper it's not common that a builder provide house blueprint plans. This is because the blueprint plans are copyrighted and considered intellectual property of the architect. Builders are granted use rights per home they build. Those rights are not transferable. But of course, we're not talking about the rights to look at them. That guy's not. He's talking about the rights to use them to build something. So the use rights that are granted to somebody who's looking at the prints is to look at them and build from it. That's Bailey Wicks speaking, the association's director of communications. People are free to submit a public records request for plans filed with Pierce County for permit approval. The plans are copyrighted, so the county must give the builder notice before filing the records request, according to the county spokesperson. So the law does require them to notify the builder or the person who holds the copyright and say, hey, someone's requesting to see these plans. State law allows the builder to file an injunction to prevent plans from being released. Well, state law allows a lot of lawsuits. Pierce County told the News Tribune that a builder filing an injunction for house plans is extremely rare. The Master Builders Association of Pierce County agreed. It is a rare procedure that someone would attempt to get an injunction to get a public record from being obtained. Oak Ridge is concerned that competitors could request the building plans, which include company secrets. Well, here's the thing. competitors can't get the plans and build from them because that would be violating the rights of the copyright. But here, the idea that they're going to get trade secrets, I'd love to know what these trade secrets are that they had to put in the blueprints. Because if you wrote like the secret formula for Coca-Cola on the blueprints, why'd you do that? You don't. Blueprints are the design of the house and how the house is designed. Presumably, someone could go into a house and figure out a lot of this stuff if they were an architect, and in essence, reverse engineer the blueprints. Now, you might say, well, Steve, then why doesn't this guy do that? Well, number one, he's not an architect. But the question is, what are these trade secrets? Well, we'll get to that. Servant told the News Tribune their housing plans include design instructions like how to avoid squeaky floors. That's our professional livelihood that is delineated in those plans, he said. Pierce County said the public has an interest in reviewing the plans and approval decisions made by county employees. If you've really invented non-squeaky floors, patent them. I mean, there have been dumber patents issued. Homeowners have an interest in reviewing their own plans to understand what materials were used and where they were placed. Building plans can affect decisions by homeowners concerning earthquake or flood insurance. Homeowners and contractors have an interest in such plans for remodeling. Homeowners have an interest in determining whether construction matches the county-approved plans. That's the county's argument in favor of the homeowner against the builder. In January, the homeowner posted on his community Facebook page detailing steps to file for house plans. Soon after, another man filed for records request on his Oak Ridge home in Tehela. He and two others were added to the injunction, one of whom has since reached an agreement with Oak Ridge outside of court. The second guy we're talking about, who's added to this, wants to add another room and knock down a few walls. He doesn't want to do major work without the blueprint for this home detailing the locations of pipes and electrical lines running behind the walls. We wouldn't even dream of doing that blind, he told the News Tribune. He worries that Oak Ridge's hesitancy to share its plans means the builder did not follow the blueprints submitted. They seem to be a little bit shady, he said. Since the injunction was filed, Brando has been able to take photos of the blueprints filed with Pierce County by scheduling a public record inspection to review the records of the county building. He now feels the case is more important than the blueprints. It's more about standing up to bullies. I feel like they're just being the bully here, he said. And I'm curious to know if when he saw the blueprints and he photographed them, I'm assuming he did that with a cell phone, I'm wondering if they're not going to complain and say he had no right to do that, because if those blueprints are copyrighted and he's not allowed to get copies of them, then theoretically he wouldn't be allowed to make his own copies. And this is a weird thing. And I'm going to go off on a tangent here. I was doing some research a couple years ago on something I still might write a book about, but I'm not sure. I'm still on the fence on this one. And there were some records. There were some records being kept at the county level up in northern Michigan, up in this area near Alpena. And I went up there and I knew which records I'm looking for. And I'm looking for death records, the records that are kept when people die, people pass away. And so death certificates get issued and they get filed. And then there's a master file where they keep a series of notes about each death record. And then the death records themselves go to Lansing, and there's this master file kept at the county. And that's often referred to as the return of deaths, because they take these documents and they send them off to Lansing. I'm not sure why they're calling it a return, but it's the return of deaths index. And so I went up to this county and I said, I'd like to see your return of deaths from this particular year. And the woman said, okay. And she comes out wearing gloves and carrying a book. And so I put gloves on and I opened the book up because I know exactly the date I'm looking for. And there we are. Boom. A whole list. And it's the records I'm looking for. And I pull out a camera. I'm about to take a picture. And she goes, and she comes running over to stop me. And I go, what's wrong? She goes, you can't photograph that. You cannot photograph that. And I said, okay, can you photograph it for me and I'll pay you? She goes, no. You're not allowed to photograph that. And I go, well, this is a public record. She goes, yes, if you want a copy of the public record, you can pay us, file a FOIA request, and you can get copies. I said, so what will you give me when I file a FOIA request? What will I get? Will I get a photo image of this page? She goes, no. We're going to print out the data that's been put in the computer where somebody transcribed this information into a computer. I said, okay, but I want an image of this page. She goes, you can't have it. I go, but this page is a public record. She goes, yes. And you can order the information off that record and we'll give it to you in its transcription form. I said, okay, but you understand what I'm saying, right? I don't want the data. I want this image. She goes, you can't have it. And I go, why not? Because it's not going to harm the page, is it? I go, I can do it without a flash. I have a good camera. And she said, we make money off those records. If you take a photograph, we don't make any money. So I pulled out my wallet and I go, I'll pay you. How much? And she goes, that's not how it works. I said, well, can I fill out a FOIA request, pay you, and then photograph it? She said, no. I go, so there's no way whereby I can photograph this page. She goes, that is correct. And all I'm thinking in the back of my mind is, darn, I got to drive back to my office and file a lawsuit, which I will win. But I didn't want to get into a little argument with her right there, so I said, oh, okay. And I walked away. And of course, I didn't tell her that I'd taken the picture before she ran over and yelled at me. So I actually have the photograph. But the point is that those are public records. The question is what you do with them. So if this guy gets a copy of his blueprints for his house, if he obviously cannot give them to somebody else, go here, build a house. He can't do that. No one can take them and build a house without getting the permission of the people who drew the blueprints. However, I believe once they get filed, they're a public document. And it will be very, very difficult to make the case that these plans were used to build this house. Someone now lives in the house and simply wants to look at the plans that were used to build their house. They don't want to build another house. They don't want to distribute the plans. They simply want to have the plans available so they don't damage the house or hurt themselves in the process of remodeling the home, which is something they're allowed to do. So it seems to me that the equities in this matter would come down on the side of the homeowner. But it also depends on what laws are on the books, because there apparently are some laws that address this. I haven't seen those yet, so we'll see what happens. But as of right now, we're waiting for about a month to hear what will happen next. But from the newstribune.com, and Stefan sent this to me, Josephine Peterson wrote it, Pierce County man wants blueprints to his own home, and the builder has sued to stop him. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. How many times have you said this to yourself? Never buy a car you can't push.